Welcome to Perimeter Institute and the Inspiring Future Women in Science Conference. My name is Kelly Foyle, and I'm a physicist and a member of Perimeter's educational outreach team. It's tremendously inspiring to see a room like this filled with young women who are curious about the world, passionate about science, and eager to make important contributions. We also have additional guests who are watching through our webcast, including Norwell District Secondary School in Palmerston and Elsie McGill Secondary School in Milton. Thank you to all of us joining us here today, both in presence and online. You are the future of women in science, and this conference is about you and it's for you. I'm eager to hear your comments and questions throughout the sessions today. We're also pleased to welcome Linamar Corporation as the presenting sponsor of this conference. We have an exciting morning ahead. We have 20 amazing and inspiring women who have followed a STEM career that are attending today. Together, they represent over 250 years of experience in their fields. Although that might make us feel a little old, hopefully it will encourage you to learn as much as you can as they share their stories about how they pursued their path and offer you advice and food for thought. In the next few hours, you'll have the opportunity to learn as much as you can from the experience of women who have come before you. Much of science, too, involves building on the work done before and learning from the experience of others. In the spirit of understanding and learning from what has come before, I would also like to acknowledge that we are located on the traditional territory of the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee peoples. Perimeter Institute is situated on the Haldimand Tract, land promised to 6 nations, which includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. As a young woman living in Canada, you are impacted by all that has come before you, but you also have the opportunity to learn from the experiences and perspectives of a truly diverse community. I encourage you to ask questions and remain open to the thoughts and reflections and wisdom of others while considering your own path for the future. Throughout the morning, we've tried to give you as many opportunities as possible to ask questions and talk directly to the speakers and the panelists and also the mentors. Please take advantage of this opportunity. We'll just briefly go over how the morning will work. We're going to hear from one of our keynote speakers, and that will be an opportunity to ask questions. After the keynote speaker, we'll have a panel discussion. The panelists will discuss their lives as STEM professionals, but most of the discussion is going to be around your questions. The panel discussion will be followed by our second keynote speaker, and again, you will have the opportunity to ask questions. And then we'll say goodbye to our online audience and move out to the atrium for a speed mentoring session. And you'll have the opportunity to talk in small groups with different STEM professionals. The mentors are excited about sharing their experience with you. So there's a lot ahead, so let's get started. We welcome the Linamar Corporation as the presenting sponsor today, and the executive chair of the board of Linamar, Linda Hasenfratz, would like to share some words of welcome.
Thanks, Kelly, and good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure for me to be here to sort of officially kick off and welcome you all to the event today. I've always really loved this event. I find it really inspiring, and I hope that all of you do as well. I think the speakers are always amazing, so I'm really excited to hear all of you this morning as well. Linamar's been the presenting sponsor of this conference for actually quite some years, and we do that because as a STEM grad myself, I love the idea of encouraging even more young women into a career in STEM. And of course, you guys are all starting to think a little bit about what you want to do in your careers and in your lives. And we're hoping to inspire you, obviously, into studying and working in STEM. I think, to me, it's an awesome choice because it really checks a lot of boxes. I think it's super fascinating. You're doing really interesting things that really matter in the world. If you want to make a difference in the world, this is a place you can do it. There's tons of jobs out there. Every business is looking for folks in science, engineering, technology, math, trades. And it has great earnings potential as well. So it really sort of checks all those boxes. And I have to say also that if you do make the choice to go into STEM, you're going to learn a lot, you're going to find a lot of opportunities, but it doesn't mean you're sort of stuck on that road for life. Like, I feel like when you're trying to make decisions at this age around what you're going to study, you feel like, oh my God, I got to make the right decision, or I'm going to be like, this is, the rest of my life I'm thinking about. And it's really just the start, right? Because you learn something, and you may decide to take a right turn or a left turn somewhere along the road, and that's okay. In fact, I think it's actually teaches you even more. There's all kinds of people I've met who, started out in one direction and took a lot of right and left turns. And in the end, it just makes them sort of uniquely qualified to do what they end up doing. So don't be afraid of that. Just, to go down a road and then see where that takes you. Now, if you do decide to head into STEM, I'm happy to report that you as a woman will not be alone. There's been an incredible increase in terms of the number of women in science and technology and engineering, math and trades over the last 25 years, like literally 20 times the women that we used to see. To give you a couple of examples, the University of Toronto, one of our country's top-ranked universities with a world-recognized engineering program, has had between 40 and 50% women in their engineering program for some years. That's half women in their program. So, and there's a lot of other schools, Waterloo, Western University, University of Guelph, many others also have, more and more women in all kinds of different areas of STEM. And I think that's really amazing because, as I say, I think there's a lot of great career opportunities for women in STEM and doing, really important things in terms of making our world a better place, making it a safer place, a cleaner place, a healthier place. And there's a lot of opportunity to do that if that's something that means something to you. Clearly, there's momentum building for women in all these areas of study and work. And I think we should all take some time, and I really want to thank all of our speakers this morning for taking the time to tell their stories to you, and hopefully you'll share them with others as well, because I think we learn from role models like all of these women, and I hope that you'll be inspired by them. At Linamar, we started an initiative, I think it was 2018. We call it See It, Be It, STEM It, and it's all about role models as well. So when you came in, you may have noticed that there was a table full of calendars, and that's part of our See It, Be It, STEM It program. So we have about 350 role models on our website in all kinds of different areas of STEM and trades, telling their stories of what they're doing and why they're doing it and why they love it. And the calendar is, every year we make a calendar with 12 of those women to tell a little bit more of their story. So please be sure and pick one up on your way out. And I'd also like to encourage all of the role models speaking today to sign up to be a See It, Be It, STEM It role model. We would love to have you on our website, inspiring even more women than you are today. So I'd like to lastly say, I think you young women are very lucky because you're living here in Southwestern Ontario, right in the heart of an incredible ecosystem that has developed around technology, around science, around engineering, around manufacturing, in areas like artificial intelligence and machine learning that are really just changing the way that we're doing things, some quantum computing that we're going to hear about shortly as well, that also is massively changing how we can do things. You're sitting in the second largest technology cluster in North America, which is amazing. There's so much happening here, so much knowledge here, and it's coupled with a lot of super interesting other industries like manufacturing. Linamar is a manufacturing company, but we're so interwoven with the technologies that are being developed that in some ways I feel like we're more of a technology company. And in fact, we now call ourselves advanced manufacturing to represent that sort of intersection between traditional manufacturing and all this amazing new technology that's out there. So I think you guys are going to have an amazing day today. I hope you really enjoy all the speakers and meeting all the mentors. And of course, one last plug that I hope you decide that you want to pursue a career and study in STEM. Thanks very much and have a wonderful morning and day.
Thank you, Linda. Our first keynote of the morning is Aggie Branchik. She's a physicist and entrepreneur with a PhD from the University of Queensland. She spent over a decade in quantum research and technology, holding academic roles at Perimeter Institute and industry positions at IBM Quantum. Now, as the founder of Quantum Salon, she develops communication strategies for deep tech teams, especially those in quantum computing. Please join me in welcoming Aggie Branchik.
Thank you so much for the kind introduction, Kelly, and for the invitation to be here. It's an absolute honor to get to speak to all of you today and to tell you my personal thoughts on how to have a fulfilling career, whether it's in science or not. So most of you are at the stage of your life where you're kind of trying to figure out what is it that you want to do with your life, what kind of career are you going to have, and therefore what kind of career path do you have to follow. Maybe you're thinking of being a professor, in which case you're going to have to do a bachelor's degree, and then a master's degree, then a PhD, and then all the different ranks of professor. Maybe you're thinking of being a software developer, so you'll have to do a computer science degree and then follow the career steps. Maybe you want to be a medical doctor or an electrician or a patent attorney, and all of these have these well-defined career paths. And so you've got all of these options ahead of you, and it's really tricky to try and think about what is it that you want to be for the rest of your life, especially at such an early stage. And you probably know a lot of people in your life that had these kinds of careers, but it turns out that most people don't have careers that follow these linear paths with these predefined steps. And Linda alluded to this in her introduction. But most people follow careers that look like this. They twist and turn and go back, and a lot of people call this nonlinear careers. And so these are nonlinear in the sense that people change jobs throughout their careers. They change industries, they change fields, they sometimes go back to school, all of these different things. And the reasons that people have these kinds of careers vary. Maybe someone started on a linear career, but then decided this is really not a good fit for me, I want to do something else. Some people have careers like this because they really appreciate the variety and the breadth and the flexibility that comes with a career path like this. Other people have careers like that because it's the only way to get a job that's at the forefront of innovation. Jobs that didn't exist when they started their careers and were trying to think about what to do. So, depending on what kind of personality you have, you might find this scary, or you might find it liberating, and I hope to convince you in this talk that it's actually liberating. So I'll tell you a little bit about my nonlinear career. I started in Australia, actually. I did a Bachelor of Science majoring in physics at the University of Queensland. And then I stayed at the University of Queensland for my PhD, also in physics, in a field called quantum optics. Then I moved to Canada, to the University of Toronto, where I did a postdoc in a field called quantum biology. So already I changed fields, a little bit. And in 2013, I moved here to Waterloo to join the Perimeter Institute. So I joined in a position called PSI Fellow. So there I taught in the master's program various courses related to quantum theory, and I brought my research back again to quantum optics. And so far, this seems like a pretty linear academic style career. But in 2020, I decided that really, academia wasn't where I wanted to spend the rest of my life, and I made the jump to industry. So I joined IBM Quantum, which is the division of IBM that develops quantum computers. And there I had several positions, ranging from technical roles to leadership positions. And then in 2024, I decided I really want to venture out on my own. So I left IBM and I started Quantum Salon. And so that's what I've been working on for the last year and a half. So Quantum Salon is a strategic communication studio working within the quantum tech ecosystem. Our mission is to help people in the quantum ecosystem understand each other better. So you have people from all of these different backgrounds, from science, policymakers, you've got investors, and they all kind of speak different languages. So we want them to understand each other better. So there are 3 pillars there. Communication, where we work with quantum tech startups and organizations to help them explain what they do and why it matters. There's the insights component, where we study the ecosystem and then write about it and share what we learn with the community. And then there's a very new aspect, exploration, where we're building this interactive platform to be able to map out the entire quantum tech ecosystem to help people understand how it all fits together. And so for me, I would say this period of my career, building and working within Quantum Salon, has been the most rewarding part of my career so far. And the thing is, I wouldn't have been able to plan this out 10 years ago. This was something that really evolved from my interests along the way. And so the thing is that you can't plan a nonlinear career. But fortunately, you can prepare for one. So that's what I kind of want to do for the rest of this talk, is kind of give you the tools that you will need to prepare yourself for a nonlinear or a linear career. So in a linear career, you kind of internalize what success is from the people around you, from the people who are doing the same job as you. And this can be good because it kind of tells you, how to judge progress and how to guide you. So it tells you what you need to do to get to the next step of your career. If you're on a nonlinear career, you still need something to guide you and to judge progress, but you're going to have to really define your own definition of success, because when you're changing fields, those definitions change as well. So it's good to have something that's internalized. So, I see some people taking photos. By the way, you can find all of these slides on the internet on quantum.salon/inspiring if you want a copy of them later. But okay, so let's look at a definition of success that I like, which is to be able to do fulfilling work. So the question is, what makes a job fulfilling? And there's this great book by Cal Newport called So Good They Can't Ignore You, and I really recommend everybody read this book. And in there, he kind of dives into what it is that makes a career fulfilling. And so he interviews people and reads up on it. And the things that he identifies are creativity, so getting to figure things out your own way instead of just doing what you're told. Impact, so working on things that actually make a difference to other people. Control, having a say in what you work on and how you do it. And finally, relatedness, so feeling like you belong and that the people you work with actually matter to you. So these are all wonderful traits, but the very sad thing that he points out in his book is that most jobs don't have traits like this. So jobs that have these traits are rare and valuable. Well, the valuable bit is by definition. And supply and demand tells us that if you want a job with traits like this, you need something rare and valuable to offer in return. And he calls this career capital. So let's take a look at what are some examples of career capital. I mean, kind of the obvious one is skills, right? What are you able to do well that other people find useful? And he really, emphasizes having rare and valuable skills, but I think, especially in a nonlinear career and in this very changing world, you really want to also focus on rare and valuable combinations of skills, like different things that most people can't do. The other one is reputation, so what people believe about you, about your ability and your reliability. And also your network, people who know you, who trust you, and who can open doors. And the network, it's not just important because your friend can get you a job. It's actually an asset. Like if you have a strong network, that's actually something that people want to hire you for, because having a network means you'll be able to achieve many things that someone with a network is not able to do. So you might be wondering right now, what about grades or degrees or certificates? Is that career capital? And it is to the extent that it represents the other things. Like the grades are a representation of your skills. The degree might be, a representation of your skills and the kind of network you have. But on its own, those things don't really mean anything if you don't have the underlying skills. So I know in high school, having good grades will get you into university, and university having good grades might get you a co-op. So those things are career capital in some sense, but if they ultimately don't represent the real things underneath, then they'll stop being valuable as you progress in your career. Okay, so we have these different kinds of career capital, and depending on what kind of career you do, whether it's linear or non-linear or which kind, they're going to prioritize different kinds of skills or different kinds of combination skills. So how do you figure out which kinds of skills you should acquire? So if you want to develop, these rare and valuable skills, it's going to take a lot of work. And, I do believe that most people can achieve most things if they work hard. And I think it's also true that, if you work hard at something, you will get good at it and probably you will enjoy it eventually. But I think, this takes time, and on the way, the experience does matter. So, hard work, it can be agony or it can be pure joy, and that really just depends on how that work matches who you are as a person. So I think you should really do work that is joyful and that motivates you. So there's another great article that I recommend everybody reads. It's called How to Do Great Work. It's by a guy called Paul Graham. He was the founder of Y Combinator, or one of the founders. And so in that article, he says things that motivate people to work hard are curiosity, delight, and the desire to do something impressive. So if you want to stay motivated along this path of working hard to acquire the skills you need to get a fulfilling job, I think you want to start by following your curiosity and then listen to what delights you. Listen to what kind of work gives you energy versus what kind of work drains you. So for me personally, writing gives me a lot of energy. Programming gives me a lot of energy. Giving presentations or lecturing actually drains a lot of my energy. Even though I find it fulfilling, it's a draining thing. So I have to pay attention to those things when I decide, what kind of work I do. Does the work feel like you're swimming against a current? Maybe you're making progress, but it just feels like so hard. Or is the work something that you just feel like you're riding a wave and it's all going really well? So I think you should choose work that gives you energy and carries you along. And I'm not advocating being lazy or avoiding hard things and being fickle, just changing all the time. But I really want to point out that by working hard on work that you like, you'll get good at work that you like, and you'll be rewarded with more work that you like. But if you work hard on work that you don't like, you'll get good at work that you don't like, and you'll be rewarded with work that you don't like. So I think it's good to keep those things in mind. So then finally, how do you know which skills are valuable? And here, I really can't overstate the importance of talking to people. You can find a lot of information on the internet and in books and other media, but this does not give you the whole picture of how the world works. There are important things people won't say in public, but they will say one-on-one, face-to-face. And I learned that again this morning in the green room, so some of the things that were said in that room are definitely not going to be said in any of these presentations, I'm sure. And there are things people just don't have time to write up or record on video, but they will tell you in passing if you're having a conversation, so you'll always have the latest knowledge of what's going on. And being able to have a conversation in real time gives you knowledge you couldn't get passively because you can really, dig in and ask questions and so on. So I think talking to people is going to give you the best sense of what people consider valuable. And there's kind of this bonus side effect is that as you talk to more people, you're going to get a reputation and you're going to build out your network. So that's another aspect of, getting that career capital. Okay, so I have some homework for you guys. So it can be nerve-wracking to reach out to people that you don't know for a conversation. To make this easier, you can attend events like this one, so it's really great that you guys are here, and I'm looking forward to having lots of conversations. You can ask your parents or teachers to introduce you to people with different careers so that you can talk to them. Or you can also use this line. So if you find someone interesting on the internet, maybe you can connect with them on LinkedIn or send them an email or something, and in your message you can say, I attended a career event, and the speaker gave me homework to interview 3 people whose careers I found interesting. I would like to learn about your career. Would you like to have a short chat? So the point of this slide is to just give you an excuse to have something to write in the message when you connect with people. And just a safety notice, ask your parents if they're okay with you doing this. Maybe they want to hang out in a room off camera and during the video call, and that's totally fine. And I've had high school students reach out to me and have these kinds of conversations, so it's not weird to do this at all. Okay, so what about science? Most people kind of think a career in science is the same thing as being a professor. But if you look at the numbers, which I just pulled these from ChatGPT, but I think they're representative of actual figures. So something like 3% of Bachelor of Science graduates complete a PhD. And then out of those that do, only 15% become professors. So if most people who do science don't become a professor, what does a science degree actually lead? And the answer, maybe not so satisfying, but really it's almost anywhere. And we're going to see some examples of this during the day. We've got these wonderful people here. We'll hear about the panels and also in the mentorship meetings later this afternoon. Some examples that I'm personally familiar with. A couple of years ago, I did this podcast, Physicists in the Wild, where I interviewed people who went on to their PhDs in physics, but then went off into very different careers, not in academia. So, some examples. Christina Escoda, she went on to become a venture capital. Amir started an AI startup. Bridget, who was here actually at Perimeter, she was the director of propulsion for an aerospace company. Emily, who's here as well, became a assistant director of strategic partnerships. I think she's been promoted again. So there's a ton of different careers, a ton of different jobs that you might not even know exist. That people find out on their nonlinear careers. So should you personally do science? I think if you have curiosity and an aptitude for science, I think science is a great degree. It's a great next step, even if you don't know where it's going to lead you. It's a wonderful experience. I loved my degree experience, and it'll teach you rare and valuable skills that are going to be useful to you whether you become a professor or not. I really like this graphic. So this was initially made by a person, Alina Hoffa, and it said the value of a PhD, but I think it really applies to science in general. So we think that the value of a science degree is that you'll learn some science, but really you're going to learn a ton of different skills like writing and research skills, critical thinking, scientific literacy, ability to learn anything, like a ton of different skills, and all of these are going to be valuable in many, many different jobs. So I'm wrapping up. Choosing a career path, I think it's stressful to figure out what you're going to do for the rest of your life when you're in high school. And I really feel like you shouldn't feel that you have to have the next 30 years mapped out. Especially now, the world is changing so fast. Like existing career paths are being rewritten, and new jobs are going to exist in 5 and 10 years' time that don't exist now. There's all of these jobs now, like prompt engineer, that I couldn't have imagined like 5 years ago. So I think instead, as I've tried to make the case in this talk, you should be preparing yourself just for a fulfilling career, whatever that is. Follow your curiosity to decide on the next step, and just the next one. Work hard to acquire rare and valuable skills or combinations of skills, on acquiring a reputation and a network. Listen to how that hard work that you're doing makes you feel. Is it joy or agony? Does it drain your energy or give you energy? Focus on the work that motivates you to steer you in the right direction. And talk to people in and outside your field to learn what they do and what they consider valuable. And then finally, keep acquiring career capital and exchanging it for increasingly more fulfilling work, either in the next step in a linear career or to change course. So thank you so much for being here, and I really look forward to chatting to all of you later in the talk, in the day.
Thank you so much, Aggie. This is the opportunity now to ask questions. So please, if you have questions, make your way as quickly as you can to the microphone. It's always tough to be the first person to ask a question. So who among us who is going to be the brave person to go first? Oh,
wonderful.
Great. Phenomenal.
Hi, my name is Paige Christensen.
Hello.
I'm from St. John's College, and I was just wondering, because you talked about a lot of nonlinear career paths, and when we talk about STEM, we also sometimes talk about STEAM and how art interacts with science, and I was wondering, what are some ways that you've seen art interact with science in different careers?
Yeah, gosh, off the top of my head, I'm not going to be able to list any, but I know I have seen tons of interactions. I mean, we definitely had someone here at Perimeter a long time ago. She was the art curator and was putting together all sorts of wonderful exhibitions that were at the intersection of art and science. And in fact, probably if you walk around the building today, I don't know if you'll get that opportunity, there's a lot of kind of art and science-inspired pieces. So I think this is a good place to start. But yeah, I mean, absolutely, this intersection exists, but off the top of my head, it's going to be difficult for me to list specific examples. But this is a wonderful, wonderful question. And one thing I really love about this intersection is people often think that science is very analytical and rigorous, and math is analytical and rigorous. But really, it's a very creative endeavor. And I think there's the way that you do science is very similar to the way that you do art in many ways. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
Okay, thank you.
Aggie. Unless there's a last question, we're good. Thank you so much. We're going to move. We're going to move on now to our panel discussion. So I'd like to invite our panelists to come up to the stage. If at this point you feel like you've been sitting for a while and you need to just kind of stretch a little bit while they're making their way up to the stage, you can take a moment to do that while I'm talking. Where you have four panelists today that represent a range of specialties and work experience. You're going to find them listed in your program. So you can have a look right now at your program. And in just a moment, we're going to have them introduce themselves. So to start the session off, I'm going to be inviting each panelist to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about their career path. I'm going to moderate the conversation, but really the conversation is going to be generated by you. So the floor is open for questions. We've already had the great example of Paige, who has come down and asked the first question. So don't hesitate, because it does take time to get down to the microphone. While our panelists are introducing themselves, please make a line. So we might as well get right started. So Nihita, would you like to get started?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Sunita. And we had a question about STEAM, so I'll start by saying when I was in your shoes in high school, I did not have a STEM career or educational idea laid out for me. I actually wanted to go to art school. I was seriously considering the illustration program at OCAD, and I was taking art classes, and I was the art teacher's pet. But I was also taking a lot of science classes, and I really enjoyed them. And when I was in grade 12, then my family strongly encouraged me to consider STEM instead. And so I went to McMaster University. I joined there in my first year in the life sciences program, thinking that I would then transition to the medical sciences program and maybe go into med school. But as luck would have it, when I was 19 in my second year of university, I fell in love with plant biology, and I totally focused in on plants. And then in my final year of my undergrad, I did a thesis project on the evolutionary ecology of plants. And then that gave way to the next phase of my education, which was a Master's of Science degree at Guelph University. I went there to study sustainable agriculture. I was looking at how these crops from Africa and Europe, if we could grow them here in Ontario as alternative sources of fossil fuel-based components that go into making plastics. This was funded by a very generous scholarship from the Ministry of Agriculture, and that also gave me exposure to the agri-food system in Ontario, and I'm very grateful for that. And when I was doing my master's, I realized that there was so much we didn't know about the plants I was working with, so I became more and more interested in exploring their molecular biology. So then I started my PhD at the University of Toronto in plant molecular biology. I was studying how plants can perceive a threat in their environment. This could be a harmful bacteria, and then decide if they should defend themselves or put resources into growing instead. So that was a fulfilling PhD. And during the PhD, I started to realize that I actually really enjoyed reading and writing about the science, sometimes more than actually doing the experiments. And then I was at an event, a career event actually, where an editor from Nature, a publishing company, came and talked to us about his career path. And I kind of had a eureka moment, being like, wow, this is what I want to do. So my first job after my PhD was actually in a big scientific publishing company called Elsevier. I worked there as a scientific editor in various capacities for different journals, and I also worked in its sister company called Cell Press, also as an editor. And what I was doing as an editor was seeing through the peer review system. So how that works is, as an author, which is a professor who leads a research group, you will do your science, and when you're ready to submit it to a journal, because you think you have a compelling story, you will submit it to the journal, and then the editor will look at your paper, and then they will have to assess if this is valuable science. So we put it through what's called a peer review system, where your peers in the field, so 3 reviewers who are also familiar with your work to different degrees, maybe they have specialty in different aspects of your work, will look at it and give assessments on the rigor of the science and so on. So I did that, and it was an amazing opportunity. And while I was working as an editor, I also realized that I'm also interested in scientific illustration. I started making journal covers for the company I was working at, and I'm very fortunate that my fellow editors recognized my interest and let me make different journal covers. So that started a new career right there for me. And people will also often tell you that once you leave academia, you cannot come back. This is not true, because while I was working as an editor, I also got an offer to do a postdoc. So then I quit my job. As much as I loved it, I thought, here's an opportunity, I should take it. So I moved over to Europe for my postdoc, where I was studying how plants can sense and communicate temperature stress. This could be extreme cold or extreme heat, and how they can communicate that stress from one part of the plant to the other. And this, of course, is important for understanding how to develop resilient crops in the face of climate change. That was a really fulfilling experience as well, but then I realized and it reaffirmed that academia really wasn't for me, and I did miss the editing aspect of my journey. So I moved back home, and I decided to make the career that I wanted. I officially launched my science illustration business. I've been doing that officially for 2 years now. I had my portfolio, started getting clients, and learning about entrepreneurship. And then I also joined another organization called Life Science Editors. I work there as an illustrator and as a scientific editor. So I bring my editorial experience, and now I help authors who come to us to develop their manuscripts, highlight their impact. Because sometimes when you're in the weeds of the science, writing what you've really done and what's impactful and meaningful about your work can be hard. So I help them do that. And most recently, I joined the University of Toronto as a grant writer. Now I help professors at the university get competitive grants also by helping them, shape their narratives of the work that they're doing. So you can say that I have 3 jobs at the moment. So this is just to show you that paths in STEM not only do they have to not be linear, but they can also be parallel and simultaneous.
That's incredible. Can we that was awesome. Super cool. Hard act to follow, but I will do my best. Hi everyone, super nice to meet you. My name is Angela. I feel like I'm kind of the baby of the group. I just recently graduated from university, but I'm still excited to tell you about my path in STEM so far. So when I was in your shoes not too long ago, when I was in high school, I didn't know what STEM was. I didn't know what it meant to go into STEM, and I remember I joined a robotics team when I was in high school, when I was super shy and I didn't know what to do. And that's ultimately what led me to my love of knowing I wanted to become a mechanical engineer and kind of giving me a voice when I was your age. So that's really what started my career for me. So I went to McMaster University. I did my degree in mechanical engineering. I also did a minor in sustainability just to kind of round out my degree. And while I was there, doing co-ops and internships, I realized what I really loved was space, and I really wanted to go into space and work towards that. So when I was there, I was on the McMaster Interdisciplinary Satellite Team, where I helped to build 2 CubeSats, so small satellites that would ultimately be launched into orbit with the Canadian Space Agency. So we launched our first one, where I was one of the chief mechanical designers in March of 2023 at Cape Canaveral aboard SpaceX rocket, which was super cool. It was a CubeSat that studied radiation science, and then we did our second mission just recently called Preset that is now in SSO orbit that we also launched with the CSA before I graduated. While I was in university, I also founded a team that did the first ever McMaster capstone experiment in microgravity. So I did that with an organization called SEDS Canada, the Canadian Space Agency, and the National Research Council. And that is a really cool opportunity to basically go into a plane that does parabola maneuvers, and for 20 seconds each maneuver, it feels like you're floating in space as if you were on the ISS. So I conducted research specifically that revolved around lunar regolith simulant, so that's the dust that's on the moon, and how we can turn that into buildings for the architecture that's going to build the Artemis missions. So that was super fun, and then I graduated. I worked a little bit at a little company called MDA Space in Brampton, so I worked on Canadarm3 for about a year and a half. And then since I now work at a company called Kepler Communications, where we put satellites in orbit that put the internet in space. Not necessarily for us on the ground, but for other space stations, payloads, etc. There I'm a mechanical engineer, and I work on the quality assurance side, so anything that leaves our facility in Toronto, basically I check from electrical to mechanical to the programming procedures that we do. So it's been amazing to get to continue on that orbit, I guess. But I think one thing, especially being in your shoes, that I continuously go back to is going back to where I came from. So since I graduated high school, I still go back and mentor that little first robotics team in Hamilton, Ontario. I've been with them for, I guess, 11 years now, since I started as a student in grade 9, and I feel that really fuels my inspiration to continue to work in the field that I do. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Yay! Yeah, that's pretty spectacular for the baby of the group. Yeah, seriously. It's getting harder and harder to follow. So I grew up in the country. I was a country girl. And the one thing that I loved about being in the country, and I still love about being in the country, is the closeness to nature. And conservation was a big part of that. Sort of fed me. It was something that I built my decision-making, my ethics, my principles around, was conservation and understanding and protecting the earth and living responsibly within it. And so that drove me into my career, and understanding, and from many people telling me about the grind of biological sciences and how many people go into it, and it's very competitive and stuff, and none of that really mattered to me. it was important enough to me that I pushed through all that. And I started studying biology in high school. I knew right away that that's exactly what I wanted to do, which then brought me to the University of Guelph, as a lot of biologists seem to pop out of that university here in Ontario. And I did an undergrad in zoology. And I thought with my undergrad that I was actually going to go to Africa and I was going to run around and save white rhinos, because rhinos, magical. And I just thought that was really what I was going to do. And then I realized that it's hot and there's a lot of bugs. And, and as much as I'm a country girl, I really like my air conditioning. I like being inside. And more than that, I fell in love with physiology. I just love how the body works at a molecular level. So then I went into a master's degree also at the University of Guelph in zoology. And I looked at fish physiology, which is far from where I thought I was going to go. But I fell in love with working in the lab. All the things that I could do, that I could learn just being in a lab. And then from that, I ended up taking a job at the Toronto Zoo. And I think I even forgot to introduce myself. My name is Paula Mackey, and I'm the Science Development Manager at your Toronto Zoo. So I took a contract at the zoo, and I made my first embryo. So I study reproductive sciences now. I made my first embryo, and that changed everything for me. Being able to see the first cells, the first few stages of life, it blew everything else out of the water. It also, though, led me down this path of understanding that there's a great deal of conservation work that can happen without you actually being in the field. You can make an impact from the lab and from learning and from developing, just being in the lab itself and learning again about species and organisms without having to actually run around in the field where the weather is really unpredictable. There's a lot to be learned in that, and so that's led me to a lot of different careers within the reproductive sciences, including human. I worked at the San Diego Zoo for a little while as well. I did some barcoding work, but all grounded in conservation. That was really important to me. And then came back to the zoo to become the manager, take over the operations side of our reproductive sciences department. And from there, just really leaned into that idea and really pushed hard on that idea of blending the work that you can do in conservation from molecular side, and how important and balanced it can be without necessarily having to make choices to go into ecology. That's kind of my short and sweet.
So cool. Hi, I'm Vanessa. I mean, you guys are very cool, right? It's very cool to be sitting with such cool people. I am here representing the M in STEM, the often forgotten M, the mathematics. When I was in high school, I actually failed grade 11 math twice. I was my dream was to become a rock star and marry Keanu Reeves. I don't know, I hope you guys know who that is. He's not married yet, I still have hope. I was always told I wasn't a math person. So when I was failing math, my teachers and my friends were like, well, babe, you're more of the creative type, you're more of the artsy type, left brain, right brain, whatever the brain is, that's the math brain, you're not that brain. And I really believed that. I internalized that. And I finally took grade 11 math the third time in summer school. I barely passed it. And my parents sent me to this amazing school. It was in an office building. We took elevators to get to class. There were only 100 kids, and we only had one thing in common, and that thing was we were all known as misfits. Everyone thought we were so dumb. And every teacher in that school knew that that wasn't true. And it really changed my life. I ended up meeting my grade 12 math teacher, Eva, who I'm still best friends with to this day. And I walked into her classroom and I was like, you're gonna have a lot of trouble with me. I'm not a math person. And she just looked at me and was like, I'm sorry, you're not a what? And I was like, oh, I'm not a math person. And she just told me that wasn't a thing. And I ended up with a 96% in math, in grade 12 math. I'm like, it's not about the grade, but low-key it was for me at the time. It changed everything. It was it's not like she said that and I became a math genius, but it changed the way I approached the idea of the impossible. When I had a problem and when I couldn't do something, I asked and I sought extra help, and it really pushed me. And at the end of that, I was like, oh my God, I'm not only really good at math, I love math, but not I love math in a I'm gonna go become a scientist at NASA type of way. I was more like, oh my God, I've been told my entire life this lie about myself. Like, I can do math, what else can I do that I've been told I can't do? And one of the first things I did was start a band. And I ended up going to, I was just kind of like, oh my God, I don't know what I want to do with my life, but I know that I need other people to get this message. Like, I know I need to change this. I ended up, weirdly, at the University of Guelph in a business degree. I took a BCom because it's the only school that would let me in with all of my bad grades up to that point. So I got into one program. I got into a marketing management program at the University of Guelph. It ended up being the best thing ever. I was like, I'm going to be in advertising. I'm going to like do all this stuff. I ended up going out to see live music every single night, and I was like, I'm like, I should be a rock star, I think, is the vibe. Like, that really makes sense for me. And I ended up leaving that. So I'm still in my band. I ended up pursuing graphic design because I was like, okay, I'm going to start a graphic design career. I did that for a bit. I hated it. And the whole time I was doing this, I was tutoring. So ever since I'd like gotten that good math mark, I was tutoring. And that was like my favorite thing to do, is showing people that they could do this thing that they thought was impossible. Blah, 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 blah. I ended up getting my teaching degree. I end up in this classroom, and there are all these very smart girls who are getting the highest grades in the class, but keep telling me they're bad at math, while all of the guys who are getting like 50s think they're geniuses. And I was like, this is giving me the ick. So I ended up going to do my master's in math ed, and I wrote a thesis called Imagining a World Where Paris Hilton Loves Math. And I studied media representations and how the media gives math such a bad rep and makes us think that girls can't be cool and do math, that we have to pick between these identities. And then I opened up a tutoring center, and I was like, I'm going to change stereotypes around math. That's my life goal. I want everyone to see that you don't have to pick between being creative and mathematical. You don't have to like sacrifice your identity at the door as a woman just to be good at math or to belong in the world of math. And now I do that, but I also work with teachers. So I'm now a math therapist. I have a book called Math Therapy, a podcast called Math Therapy, and what I do is I travel around the world and I work with teachers and talk about how they can create classroom cultures where math isn't traumatic, where marginalized populations don't feel like they don't belong in math, and how to teach math in a way that doesn't like ostracize most of the kids in the classroom who aren't the traditional definition of what it means to be a math person. The end.
Yeah.
Wow, such inspiring non-linear paths for all of us here. All right, we've already got someone who's headed up for a question.
Woo! Woohoo! Let's go.
Hi, my name is Angela, and I'm from Bluevale, and I just have a quick question. How would you say that your like choice in like university has like shaped your career path?
Anyone want to take that one? We had quite a few University of Guelphs.
Yeah,
That seems
I can like so quickly just say that, because I literally just told you guys I ended up in this program because I had no other choice, right? Like I just like ended up in this program. And I think it's so funny when the universe like gives you a little wink along your path to be like, I was in there thinking I was trying to like get an advertising degree, and at the end of the day, I'm starting a business, like a math tutoring business, and all of the skills I learned in that program I needed, like graphic design, I designed my own logo, I do my own social media, like entrepreneurship, business, I needed it to, and like I never would have thought, like, I promise you, I wasn't like at your age being like, I'm gonna start a math tutoring company one day. Like I was failing math. So like, I think it's like one of those things where it's like, I think Aggie said this in her talk, where it's like, there's all these skills you're learning, and like, yeah, fine, it's important, but you're always gonna gain something that's gonna help you moving forward, and you just might not know what that thing is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
Anybody else
Yes,
want
right.
to follow up?
I might add to that, if that's okay. So when I decided to go to McMaster in 2019, when I was finishing up high school, I had a lot of people tell me what engineering school to go to. Like a lot of folks tell me this one's better, you shouldn't go. Like, are you gonna stay in Hamilton? Because you're from Hamilton, you don't need to go to McMaster. And ultimately, especially when I was in school and I was on the Welcome Week team where I had students coming up to me like, is this the right decision? I really learned that you can make any school your home. When you're choosing a school, look for the culture and the people there and how they treat you and what programs can help you along the way. The actual classes themselves, they all have the same curriculum to offer. Some people might disagree with me, but I really think you can get the same co-op regardless of what university you went to. And just check what culture is there, because ultimately, especially like for STEM careers, when you're going through university, you get through it by working with people. You don't get through it alone. So checking the culture and making sure that the upper year courses they offer are just ones you're interested in. Everything else in between will fill itself in and you'll find your home. So focus on culture, go visit. The academic side will follow. Yeah.
I agree, yeah, 100%. That's what I was going to say too. Yeah.
Yes, next question.
Hello, my name is Alia. I'm from Blueville also. This question is largely directed at Miss Mackey, but in a field that's competitive like zoology, how would you recommend to stand out in front, like against that competition? And also, what kind of experience do you recommend getting to get into that kind of field?
So actually, Aggie's talk this morning was brilliantly, perfectly positioned. It is absolutely true. There are going to be a million biologists coming out all of the time, and mostly with probably I'm not going to say a misguided desire, but a desire to do one thing that they realize they can't really satisfy with a degree, or it's a passion and it's a fun thing, but it isn't necessarily something that they can turn into a career or that they actually really want to turn into a career. It often starts with things like, I really like animals, you know. That doesn't necessarily drive a career forward. But once you finish a degree, you feel compelled then sometimes to continue pursuing it. So what makes you unique in biological sciences, or what I did, is finding those rare traits, those rare things that you do that no one else does. Courage is a huge one. To be able to put yourself out there to do things you would normally find uncomfortable. Those uncomfortable situations become less uncomfortable. So for me, I started talking to people. I said, you know what, hey, I would love to shadow you for a little while. Can I volunteer? I did a lot of volunteering. I know that's not accessible to everyone. I had 3 jobs and I volunteered on top of that. You've got to hustle. You have got to hustle. It doesn't matter what program you're in. If you want to be unique, if you want to have those rare sets of skills, you really have to hustle and work hard and find those opportunities. Talk to your professors at school, build relationships with them, all of those type of things. Yeah, volunteering in labs, picking up the skills, even if you're not being paid to do it. And then you just start building on top of that until you have this repertoire of things that, you know, maybe someone else didn't do. And in conservation in particular, you have to be prepared. I went and worked at San Diego Zoo because there just wasn't an opportunity for me, you know, around in Canada or where I was situated at the time. And so I went to California for a little bit of time. I made a lot less money. But it was a really cool experience. It was neat. It was very rewarding, very valuable. But you have to look for those types of things and be a bit, in conservation specifically, be a bit more flexible to, yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Hi, I'm Bonnie from Louise Arbor Secondary School. This question is directed towards Vanessa. You said you failed grade 11 math twice and was constantly told that you can't do math. What advice do you have for students that might be in the same situation or in general are told they can't do something?
Oh my God, such a great question, first of all. Glad you asked. I mean, I think that my advice is to dig deep into your gut and do a little gut check. I think we, not just as women, but as a society, are really told to think our way out of our intuition. We're told that our intuition doesn't matter, that it's just like woo-woo, but we all have this like gut, you know, we all have this intuitive feel. I think if somebody tells you you can't do something, the gut check for you is, what is that triggering in you? And I think often we feel like we have to prove someone wrong to prove them wrong. And I think my advice would be to note how that feels and to ask yourself whether you want to investigate whether that is true or not. First of all, I mean, Aggie, again, we're all like, Aggie set this up so well. We can all do anything. right? So that's just what it is. Like, we can all do anything. For some of us, it's going to take a certain amount of time, like depending how much experience you have before, like blah, 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 blah. I think if there's something you want to do and somebody else is telling you that you cannot do it, my best advice is to disregard, take out the trash, kick to the curb. Like, that says more about them than it will ever say about you. And I think on that note, you're in this very vulnerable stage where you're here to ask for opinions and to have conversations, and like we respect that. But you have to protect your energy, and you have to decide whose opinions actually matter. Guess what? Opinions are a dime a dozen. Everyone has an opinion. You don't have to listen to all of them.
I'm just gonna I'm not going to tell all the green room secrets, but in the green room, Vanessa was saying, I'm not good at introducing myself. That makes me really nervous. I'm really not good at it. And I think you killed it. Like, you knocked it out of the park. You did a brilliant job. Yeah. So the minute you tell yourself you can't do something, I think you also even just challenge yourself to be like, "Ooh, I'm gonna."
100%. And whose voice is telling you that? Like, whose voice is it that is telling you? Like, even if it's your internal voice, where does that come from? Like, we are not born in a state of fear. It's something that gets put on us. Like, don't let people put their shit on you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Elise, and I'm from the University of Waterloo. So I was wondering what you would say is the most valuable skill that brought you to the career position that you are at today?
I could take this one. So, like, on the surface, going through the master's, bachelor's, PhD, people will think you're taking the technical skills, and that will be different depending on what field you're in. But something people often forget, especially when you've done a PhD, is all the so-called soft skills that you get. You learn to think critically, and you can apply that in so many unique and interesting ways way outside of your field that isn't like apparent at the moment, but you realize it later. So now, like, as a scientific editor, writer, illustrator, I am applying that constantly. Maybe I'm not using a lot of plant biology like the way I used to, but I'm able to think deeply and widely about a lot of things that it amazes me that how many years of training has given me that.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Viola, and I go to Applewood Heights Secondary School. And I was just wondering, I think it's really great how we're kind of normalizing untraditional career paths. But I was just wondering how, because I also know that university debt is a thing. So I was wondering how you actually make a profit on such untraditional, unlinear career paths.
Oh,
That's interesting.
that is such an interesting.
So smart. Yeah.
Can I ask a question back? Is that weird? Is that allowed in this
Sure.
format? Okay, I'm curious. I'm curious why there's this thought out there that non-traditional career paths are not profitable. Like, where does that come from?
Well, I mean, usually you kind of are taught that when you have a steady job, you have steady pay, right? And if you're having an untraditional, nonlinear career path, there's no guarantee that you're going to have a steady job, right? So how do you actually pull a profit to deal with those university debts, rent, stuff like that? How do you actually do that in such an untraditional setting?
I was going to say that steady jobs, that is a thing that, my parents had taught me: get a job, get a pension, all that kind of stuff, be steady. I mean, now I am in a steady job, but that was not my career path. And I still don't feel that I have to stay somewhere. I think that the world has changed so much and is continuing to change, and your generation is going to push it forward more and break open that idea of traditional, get into a place, do the same thing over and over again, stay there your entire career. That was definitely never going to be the path for me, and it doesn't have to be. And I don't think you need to look at places like that where you just have to get in and start working. There are so many opportunities and options, and of self-generated, businesses and careers, and women that are leading their own companies and making bank. Making good. It can be, and you can marry those two things together. It's you don't necessarily think you have to get into something consistent. I'm not saying that you can't, and if it works for you, that's great. But that's not necessarily your career path. No.
And also, I would add that there are no guarantees, right? So I'm thinking about this idea of being okay, perfect, I'm gonna get this job, I'm gonna stay there forever, but you never know right? Like there are layoffs, like you might change your mind and hate it. Like there's like so many things, but I'm actually really glad you asked that, because I do think that's something, like for sure, that is a model that has kept us often stuck in a mindset of like, you know, really narrowly defining the path that we can take. And it's so, like, I'm glad you asked it so we can like, we're here to liberate you all from that. Like, you're free of it. Like, it's gone. You don't have to think that.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mackenzie. I'm from Forest Heights School, and I'm in grade 10. I want to be a vet when I grow up, and I just really wanted to ask what motivational theories or motivation that led you guys to your professions.
Yeah, I could start. So for me, I think even before, so I decided I wanted to go into engineering as the base. I think the big thing that motivated me when I decided to go into engineering was just it kind of goes back to promoting women in STEM, that when I grew up, women were not in textbooks. Women were not spoken about in terms of what theories or assemblies or solutions they came up with. And for that reason, I kind of wanted to really challenge that, you know, I now have a little bit of knowledge that I can now use and potentially take really far. How far can I take this to potentially even change that just even in the high school that I went to? And that's why, like, continuing to help with things from where you came from, so whether it's volunteer efforts or clubs or teams, staying connected to those is kind of that fiery passion to continue you through your journey is probably the most motivation you could ever have going into a career, and finding that one thing you care about. So for me, even if like I have a long day and I go back to my robotics team after work, I'm like, this is the worst, I just want to go to bed. Last night, I talked to one about the fact that they just recently got into a university and they didn't know what they wanted to do, which one to pick, should they apply to more scholarships, and we just sat down for like half an hour and just talked through like what that's like, what are some good next steps, how do you know what program to go into, and that's really what makes it worth it. So when you have the tough days in school, when you're trying to apply yourself, thinking back to why did I do this in the first place, and continue to inspire yourself to move forward, I think is the best tool you could have as you're going through your journey. Yeah.
But if you find yourself in something you don't like, don't force it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Life is long.
Long and short at the same time, so don't waste your time.
Yeah,
Thank
and I
you.
think, sorry, I was just gonna say, like, some of us, like, going into STEM, we're also like classically like nerds, so we are passionate about some things very strongly, and it helps if you really lean into it and just see how far it'll let you go, and maybe you'll discover like a very unique career path that's suited to you that no one else has really been pursuing.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Isabel. I'm from St. Mildred's Lightbourne School, and I had a question for Angela. You said that you were on the interdisciplinary satellite team, and then you also worked at MDA Space. As someone who wants to go into aerospace, what skills, both soft and technical, do you think are very important to like get into those fields, but then also remain adaptable in them?
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question. Ooh, okay. So from a soft skill perspective, I think the best thing you can do is put yourself in situations where A, you find your voice, that you feel like you could talk about things you're passionate about, and B, learn how to work with people. Being in aerospace or any engineering STEM fields, your core job is not necessarily like, I'm a mechanical engineer, I could just build a car whenever I want to. That's not the case. You're a problem solver. So learning how to take on any problem with other folks, there's a lot of dynamics in groups, learning how to work together, how to figure out who the leader is, how you're dividing work. That's actually a really awesome skill that I can guarantee you in any interview you ever do, in whatever field, you'll be asked about. So whether that's joining clubs or teams, try and get an experience there is a great way to do that, to learn how to work with people. And really emulate, like you'll find leaders in all of those communities that you look up to. Start to work with them, ask if like, do you need any help? Can I support you in any way? And before you know it, you'll be moving towards a similar position. So really, yeah, learning how to work with people, working on your problem-solving skills, and working in environments, just testing out, like even a simple club or team or a volunteer organization can help to show you what is it that really drives you, that you really enjoy. So that's more on the soft skill side. From a technical perspective, I mean, aerospace is such a vast field, so it really depends what you want to go into. But I would continue to look into, again, I'll go back to like when you work on clubs or teams, you could try different things out. So whether it's more electrical or mechanical, or maybe you want to go into the marketing side, like it really depends. Try it out, and the first couple times might not be right, but you eventually will land on something. Having the courage to try things that just aren't going to stick is what's going to get you to where you truly want. When I was in university, I did several 4-month co-ops before I ended up at MDA, and they weren't in space. It was just because I wanted to try them just to see what would happen. And oh my gosh, I knew so quick they were not right for me. And that was the best thing. It's the best thing to learn what you don't like. So try out different things from the technical side, and it'll land on what it is that you do like, and then you can continue to practice that and apply it. Real life applications, like you alluded to MIST, are really what I credit into getting into the field I am now. The academics are very supportive, but the more you can do in your spare time that you enjoy, that are those hands-on technical skills, will be what ultimately gets you to the career that you want. And I know you'll get there, so I'm super excited. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Veronica. I'm from Blueville, and my question is for all of you. How do you, as women in STEM, try and avoid people putting you into like this sort of black and white box of like you can be this creative, more feminine kind of person, and then like, or you can kind of be like focused on science and math, and you are like kind of the archetype of like a nerd?
Yeah. Oh my God, my head's gonna pop off. I'm just trying, I just wanna not swear, so like give me a sec. The answer is just no. No. Like, just no. It's just, like, this is like you have to think about who these binaries serve. When people put you into a box, how does it benefit them? That's always the question I ask myself. We put people into boxes because it does something good for us and our ego. It serves the patriarchy. It serves the systems that are already in place. Like, it is so threatening to the people in power to be like, oh my God, look, this cool girl can be in STEM and make some actually important decisions. Like, that would really mess things up for the structures in place. So I think like I don't want to be like, get out there and fight. Like, I don't want your life to be a fight, but I do think that choosing to be your authentic self is an active revolution. It is activism to simply be yourself in a space, even if someone else is uncomfortable with it. So I think that's it, is ask who it's serving to have to make yourself small and fit into their box. And then, as uncomfortable as it is for you to be yourself in a space, I promise you, it is so much more uncomfortable for the person trying to put you in that box, and just sit there and enjoy it.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Delilah. I'm from Preston High School, and I feel like a lot of people have passion and drive for their future career, but don't know how to get the opportunities to get to that career. So what are some ways you can find those opportunities, especially when facing adversity?
Yeah, I mean, I just, I would see somebody doing something that I thought was really cool, and I just would ask if I could, can I shadow you? Can I work for you for free? Can I don't know, can I be a part of an event that you're interested in being, that you do, or, that you're going to be a part of or something? And the more people you talk to and express your interests or take interest in what they're doing, the more opportunities start to open up. Largely, people do some really interesting, cool things, but they don't. So when we stand up here and we give our introduction, it's the very high level of what happened to us in life. But all the decisions and all the concerns and insecurities you have about choosing your career path, we all did it. We all did it, and I still do. I was saying in the green room, when I grow up, I'm not sure what I'm going to be. I still feel that way. but you know, back to my point of everybody that you sort of interact with probably does a lot of really cool things, but they just don't talk about it all the time. It's hi, how are you, how's the weather, and this is a really nice, how are your kids kind of thing. But there could be all these really amazing things they're doing, but if nobody asks them about it or gives them the opportunity, you might not even know that they're doing it. So just start talking to people. If it's really cool, ask if you can be a part of it. That worked for me. And then I really got to know some amazingly cool things. I learned some things I'll never use again. Well, never say never. But it was neat. It was an eye-opening experience. That was my path. I don't know about
great advice.
Everybody else.
You can learn about opportunities everywhere. It just is a matter of how many points you access. I was talking the other day about making your social media as productive as possible. And part of that is finding like organizations and people you look up to, and they often post like volunteer opportunities or groups all the time. The other thing is looking into like, I think we often think of like paid positions, especially as we're moving towards university for experience, but there's a lot of like volunteer organizations that their whole mission is to connect you to the career that you want. From a space perspective, I talked about SEDS Canada earlier, is a volunteer organization just about getting you into space jobs and connected to people, and I know those exist across different industries. So even just like a quick little bit of research of maybe not a paid position, but what are some volunteer places that I would basically very closely identify with that serve where I want to go, because then you don't have to wait for those like, oh, I could do this when I have this much experience when I'm in university. You could do them now in other support groups. Yeah.
Like Aggie's homework is brilliant.
Yeah.
If someone had told me to do that, I was already doing it on my own because it's just who I am, but that is, I'm going to use that.
I might do that now, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hello, my name is Myra from Applewood Heights. My question is, did you do any voluntary or special programs in high school that helped you a lot?
Not me. No, I took sciences, but I had a small, I went to a small high school that had some really great people who, I spoke to my teachers, I knew my teachers, and they were supportive. But we didn't have special things, and it didn't make a huge impact for me.
Yeah.
But I think other people have a different, experience.
I'm a hard no. You all know what I was doing in high school. So yeah, no.
I volunteered at the local library to get my hours, and I think that just helped me like get my foot in the door with the university, because it showed I was maybe a little bit more scholarly and interested in learning and teaching kids. So, but beyond that, in high school, I wasn't doing a lot besides trying to get my grades up.
True. I think volunteering can be a good opportunity to feed the side of you that isn't necessarily associated with what you want to do with your degree. I taught swim lessons when I was in high school. I eventually became a lifeguard, but I think for like 5 years, I just volunteered to do it. So like running for flutterboards and things like that. But it's just because I liked the water, and it was the sport that I felt took me away from the stresses of my physics classes, how I'm doing in robotics, how's chemistry. So I just did that because it was like when I went to do it, I enjoyed it. I was doing something good, and I was kind of physically doing something rather than having to stay up here all the time. There are a lot of great volunteer opportunities like I did First Robotics in high school, and even if you're not in one of those teams, they have a lot of events that you could volunteer for. That's more STEM forward, and those are great. But if you're looking at volunteer opportunities that have nothing to do with what you want to do, it's a great way to like blow off some steam and not feel like your mind is on 100% of the time. And I think that'll really teach you that when you're in university, maintaining that side of you that isn't STEM forward to, again, let off some steam, relax, have some hobbies outside of engineering, math, whatever it is you do. It'll help to keep you well-rounded and hopefully to relax a little bit when you're outside of those situations.
I'm really sorry, I just have one more question. You know how AI is coming and it's like taking jobs and everything. Do you have anything to say about that? Because I really want to do engineering and something along those lines, coding and something. But again, there's AI and not many people are saying like you shouldn't do this. Do you have anything you'd recommend?
My hot take is, and you don't actually need to listen to this, but I'm like, yeah, it's going to take some jobs and it's going to create some jobs. And also the world is unpredictable. So just like, go forward. Like, we're not psychic, Do you know what I mean? Like, all we can do is like move in some sort of direction. And I think there's like, I don't know, maybe I should not say this, but I'm like, I think about all the jobs now that didn't exist when we were in high school, like being an influencer. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, none of us would have predicted this. Like, Instagram didn't even exist. So it's like, cool, it took, or like, think about calculators. Like, how many jobs did calculators take? But then it created so many jobs, like the printing press. Like, now we have computers. So I think it's like I think we have to have a little faith, and again, like, stop coming at everything from fear, because people, again, sorry, I like keep just being like, who does it serve for us to be scared? Like, it's not us. Like, we have to lean into faith a bit more. I wouldn't say AI is going to take away some jobs. I would reframe it as being like, it's gonna shake some stuff up. There's going to be cool opportunities that don't exist now. I don't know what they are.
Yeah, from an engineering perspective,
yeah.
I use AI every day. Like, growing engineering companies do use it, but I think we use it more as a tool. I think a valuable place that you'll work for, and why I like Kepler where I work, is because they recognize it as an add-on and not replacing the work. It helps us, but it does not bring the expertise that you will learn as you're becoming, I said, when you're in engineering, so engineering specifically, you're becoming a problem solver. And while AI can offer some answers, especially as it's advancing, it cannot directly replace that aspect of an engineer or a technologist, et cetera. So I agree. I definitely say go for it, and keep in mind that a company or an organization or an effort that you will believe is worth working for will look at it more as just a tool to help us move faster, but not to replace the skills of who we want to be.
Before you leave, I do want to correct my my answer to your first question, not correct, but just briefly add to. I know there's a long line, but I had said that no, in like structured programs in the high school that I went to didn't exist to say, if you want to do this program here at the school. But I did volunteer to teach. Like I was like a teacher's assistant. I just volunteered because I thought maybe I wanted to go into teaching. I volunteered in a class. When the teacher was sick, I actually ended up taking over the class and teaching the lecture that day or whatever it was. Yeah, in high school. So again, going back to the whole start talking to people and creating the opportunities. So the structure might not exist at your school, but it doesn't mean that you can't create it for yourself.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just a quick note, we're going to be down to our last 3 questions. So if you've already had an opportunity to ask a question, please give the chance to someone else. And I'm sorry if you're at the back of the line and we don't get to you, I'm sorry about that. But I think the panelists will be around during the mentoring session out in the atrium. So if you want to come and find someone and ask your question, definitely do that. So they'll still have an opportunity to chat with these wonderful women here.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Jayana. I go to Mayfield Secondary School, and my question's mainly for Vanessa and Paula. My dream is to be like a researcher that works with like chemistry and stuff and working in a lab all day. But my main thing is, how do you not feel discouraged by like grades? Like I've taken biology and it hasn't gone very well, and I'm finding it hard to not completely give up on my dream. So how do you deal with that?
No, you go ahead. I feel like you've got this.
Okay, obviously this is such a tough one because grades are real. Like, they are a reality. But I'm going to piggyback on like something Paula actually said earlier about this idea of creating our own opportunities. And I think there is this thing of like, I believe and have seen firsthand that there are so many ways to get somewhere, right? And we're all problem solvers, like what you said. So I'm kind of thinking of your situation as a problem solving. You're like, okay, so I'm doing biology. I want to do this thing, but your grades might be a bit barrier is what I'm hearing. So I would be asking some questions of like, how can I think outside the box here? Like something, I don't know your situation, but things I would like be asking you if we were having a one-on-one, I'd be like, okay, like, have you gotten a tutor? Have you tried to talk to the teacher? Have you like, could you take it somewhere else? Could you take it outside of school somewhere? If like the grade is the thing, right? Like, then I'd also be like, is getting biology the only way to get into this career path you want? Is there a career path that's related to it? Like, example, but not this. If I had a friend who was like, I really want to be a psychiatrist, and she was like, I can't get the grades, and I hate math and science, but I want to like be sitting talking to people, I'd be like, well, what about social work? Like, you can do a college path. You don't need the math and science. So I don't know what the parallel is because I don't know exactly what we're talking about, but I would just be like, and the other thing is, it's like, do you hate biology, just out of curiosity?
A little.
Okay, so then I'd be like, so this perfect answer, right? It's like, do you really want to be going into a program, or you're doing something you hate for 4 more years? Like that sounds a bit ick, right? Like, so I'd be like, what is like the vision you have? Is there a roundabout way to getting there? And again, because we're all talking here about all these careers, we do kind of think black and white, right? We're like, biologists, like this, that. Like, is there a career that could use the things you actually like that's kind of in that field that, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel that's a bit more of the move. Like, obviously I want to ask you so much more, but I feel that's a bit more of the move of like, let's not, like, if you really need biology to get into something, I think you can get the grade. There are ways to get there. There's, like, not to be shady, but there are ways to get this grade. But then what happens when you get into university? Why are you doing this thing you hate for 4 years? You know what I mean? So I think those are the things. Like, I feel like this is actually like a nice, like, after this, like, have a thought about this, maybe like chat with a friend and be like, here's the thing I'm actually wanting. Here's my barrier to getting it. Like, can you think of a different way to go about this, or a different thing I can do that's like in this area? Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Come see me at the mentoring session. Wink, wink. Okay, you go.
No, I was going to say, you might also just not like the biology and the way it's being presented to you.
Yeah, oh, such a good point.
So there are, I mean, what you learn in high school is usually a summary of a variety of different things that have been going on for a very long time. And it's important. It's the basis. You have to have some base understanding, but there might be a way of presenting it to you that will be really intriguing and inspiring to you. So you might just be looking at a particular aspect that you don't really love. When I was in school, I could not remember hormone pathways at all. I just didn't understand them. I study reproductive sciences. Now hormones are incredibly important. I now love them, but I did not like it in school. So.
Yeah, there's like so many questions. Like, is it the teacher? Is it the way they're teaching it? Do you just like actually hate? Like, we need to ask a bunch of questions. But like, you're gonna be great. Is the vibe, generally.
Hi, my name's Antra. I just had a question about co-op in university. I was wondering about how it helps us like develop skills for the real world that people tell us, and how it helps us narrow down on our pathways and the career path we want to go into.
Before you answer, I love it. Everybody quotes the real world. You're in it. Like, your choices and decisions now are the real world. Like, it's all happening right now. Sorry, but I'm not going to answer that question because I didn't actually take co-op.
Me neither.
Okay. I'm such a proponent for co-op and internship. I think by the end of my degree, I did 28 months of co-op and internship before I went out. I took 6 years in university for my bachelor's so that I could just take the time to try different things out. So when you go on co-op and internship, I think the first thing is the first one's definitely not going to be right, especially because like any other job industry, it can be competitive. So when you start, it might be the 1 out of 60 that say yes, and that's completely okay because you will learn something there, like soft skills, which are very important. You'll learn in any co-op experience. But as I said earlier, any time that you find something you don't like because you go for, I don't know, maybe like there's a lot of engineering students that go for more of a finance job in the first co-op that they do just to try something out and see if it sticks. And if you don't like it, that's awesome. You learned something and you still got experience and you could put on your resume and continue to build from there. So taking the time that you need to try out different experiences, I think is really important. And also, I was really lucky to have some amazing co-op advisors in my school that I think when you really take advantage of chatting with them, they could help you move in the direction that you think is the most interesting, even if it's having a conversation of, okay, how was your last co-op? How was it getting it? What did you like about it? What didn't you? And they could help try and steer you towards certain employers that they've met over the years. I also think going to career events and talking to companies directly to see like what is it that they care about, because often when you work for something that meets your passion and what you care about in the world, then you can find your way into something that is interesting to you. So yeah, don't be afraid to try out different things, and also different lengths. I did 3 4-month co-ops before I even dove into the 16. Schools offer usually different lengths of co-ops, so if you're just like kind of starting to get your feet wet, then you could try those 4-month instances. In high school, they do also tend to offer co-op opportunities. Some schools have the SHISM, SHSM thing going on. My school had that, not all do, but you can talk to your guidance counselor if there's a possibility of placements in high school that can kind of help you in grade 12 to, if you have the space, you can go out to universities or smaller companies and try something out before you actually sign up for a university degree. But definitely take advantage of it and reach out to the resources that schools have. When I graduated last year, it was the sudden realization that, oh my goodness, I no longer have access to these resources I had for 6 years. So taking advantage of your co-op department and what they have to offer will help you quite a bit.
And a reference. Even if you don't like it, still do a good job, still show up every day, because that's a reference is incredibly valuable. So somebody else had asked what you do, you get great references.
Yes.
You really make an impression on, it doesn't matter if you don't like it, you work hard, you be respectful in that place, and you understand that they've got a goal that you're gonna help them with, and then you get a reference. You don't have to go back to doing that, but that reference can be can change everything for you.
Yes, I'll add one more thing that I learned from someone on my 16-month co-op. I remember I was wrapping up and this other intern was telling me she has all these meetings this week that are like 15 minutes long, and I looked at her and I'm like, what are you doing? And she said, I'm meeting with every person I've worked with at the company before I finish, and I'm doing 15-minute coffee chats just to ask them about their experience and what they've done. And so what you're doing right now, asking us questions and taking knowledge, which we love to share, and everyone loves to talk about what they do. When you're on these co-ops, take advantage of chatting with those people, because everyone will want to talk to you and tell you what they did, and that'll help you to further your experience moving forward.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Zoe. I go to KCI High School. I see that you guys all kind of thought outside of the box in like your field. I'm really interested in how we can change education to suit the needs of everybody's learning, and I was curious how you guys went about promoting and sharing your new idea in order to challenge the ideas of others.
That's a great question.
That's a really good question.
It's such a great question.
We're looking to you because you started a whole company.
Okay. I don't know why everyone's looking at me. Are you guys looking at me for a reason? Well, I will say, I work, my work is with teachers now. I've been doing that for 2 years. I feel like it is the question of our time, is that education, I will just, another hot take from me here, is that our education system is very, very broken. And it was created at a time where the skills we needed were assembly line workers. That's what we needed. We needed people to follow rules. We didn't need critical thinking. And now we're in this very odd place where it has not caught up to the real world, the world we are in. And how can we, your question of how can we change education, I certainly don't have the answer. I think there's so many ways. But I think the first thing is, we have to realize that education as an institution is so archaic and really serves the majority, the small majority, which I know is an oxymoron. And so we want to serve the students in it. We want to make it less biased. We want to make it a place where everyone can excel, where people aren't there's so much to say. And we have a lot of work to do, is what I'll say. But if anyone here is thinking of going into education, I think one of the most important things is on a granular level, you guys are in school right now. So really, I shouldn't even be answering this question. I feel like you guys should, to be honest. I would love to hear from every one of you. But in school, you guys are so influenced, you're so affected, you get taught all of these implicit rules. It's not just the content. You're taught what success means. You're taught all of these things. And I think I don't know, I think it's important that you're just asking that question, and I think it kind of goes back to the first question I answered about opinions. I feel like for you guys, it's like, what can you take from school that is valuable to you and that will help you along your journey, and what things can you kind of like low-key eye roll and be like, I get that this is the way it is and I've got to play the game, but I'm not going to internalize that as a personal failing. I don't think I don't know that I answered anything you said.
Kind of, not really.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for being so nice and like nodding along. Education is broken. That's my statement.
In terms of throwing it back to you, maybe I'll continue to build on that.
Yeah.
Finding an educator that's in your corner, that supports you and your ideas can be the most amazing thing. So if you have a teacher that you've just really connected with and they understand where you're coming from and what you want to do, and you have an idea, you should really put a bug there. Like, you should chat with them about it. When I was in university and I decided to do that microgravity project, McMaster, not a space university, and I knew that going into it. So when I wanted to do my microgravity capstone, they were like, yeah, no, no, that's not in the curriculum. But I found a prof that was like, that is sick, and I want to see what happens, and they sponsored my project.
Yeah.
So finding someone that would like support you, and if it's something that's outside of school that you think would be cool to bring in, or maybe a different learning style, different idea of how to lead the class, find that person that'll support you, and hopefully they'll help you take that idea of how you want to change your education across the finish line.
This is such good advice, and because I sounded so negative, I'm just going to come back and do a little quick redo and say, really, most teachers like want to help you. Yeah. So I actually think this is even a bigger conversation about the biology grades and about this and whatever, of like, really, not every single teacher, not every single person in every profession, but most teachers are there because they really do care, and they're bogged down by the system and some things they have to do. But if you literally are like, listen, I need you to help me out. Like, here's what I'm struggling with. What can I do? I think you're going to get a good reaction. And I think probably from every question you guys have asked and all the advice like I've heard you guys say, like, I think the number one thing is like, never be too scared to ask. Never be too scared to talk to somebody. Never be too scared to put yourself out there, because you will, the worst thing that can happen is someone says no, and the best thing that can happen has like no limits. Mm-hmm. Again, not answering your question, but just like some general ranting from all of us.
Okay, thank you.
I think online learning is the first thing that's changed since I was in school. Like, that definitely helped some people. It didn't work for everybody, and it really helped for some. You're going to start to see some other things. This isn't a plug, but as an example, your Toronto Zoo offers a biology class in the summertime because maybe, standard classroom learning wasn't, great, or just they wanted that different experience, more experiential learning kind of thing. But I do agree that most teachers, as a person who gives lectures, when you have people in the audience that are falling asleep or checking their phones or just, it can be a little discouraging after a while. And you're like, why am I standing here? But the one person that comes up and says, what you're saying is impactful and I want to understand more, makes all the difference. Yeah. Nobody goes into that career not wanting to do something positive and impactful. So having somebody give feedback that way, you can open a door. Again, just speaking to people, you can open a door into a world of getting to know a person in a totally different way.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so one of the things that I find really hard is turning away great questions. So I let us go on a little longer than our schedule. So I will say, though, I do find it nice to give everyone an opportunity just to have, if there's something you're like, nobody asked this, but I feel like I really want to add this. So here's our moment for that. But we need to be a bit brief.
Okay, I think the only, like, my one piece, if I was like, okay, I'm gonna give one piece of advice, it would be to trust yourself. Mm-hmm. Like, that's it, to trust yourself, to live in the present, to not live in the past, to remember that every decision you've made has led you to where you are now. Like, I want you to think back to all the moments in your life where you were so pissed that something didn't happen and you didn't get into this thing, or the soccer team, or like this friend didn't call you back, or like whatever, and think about how now looking back, you're like, kind of makes sense, actually, or I wouldn't be here. And I want you guys to remember, this girl gave me this piece of advice once. She said, every single decision you make is the right decision. Every decision you make is the right decision. Do not live in the, what if I had done this, what if I have done that, what if I do this later, because it's fantasizing. You have no idea what would have happened. So just trust yourself, make a decision, take the next step and just know that every decision is the right decision, even if you don't know why yet, even if you don't know what the outcome is yet. Just trust that and make your decisions with joy and trust, and let your intuition guide the way.
I don't know if it's different from anything that I've said already, but just be open to talking to people. Find the courage within you to make the opportunities that you don't see currently available to you. You don't even know what they are, probably. I still don't. I mean, I still have, luckily, hopefully, knock on wood, many, many more years to go, and there might be other things that I'm going to do. So, lean in, speak to people, meet people, really build out that network. That's incredibly important. Be open-minded to what other people are saying to you. Learn. Even if you think that it's not going to be valuable to you, you have no idea where it could come in later on in life. I have met these fantastic women here today that have definitely opened my mind to some things, and we've had some amazing conversations just in the 45 minutes, really, we were in the green room there, this event brought us together. You have this opportunity now to speak to not only us, but to each other. You don't know each other, and you could be on this amazing path. You could be inspired by something that one of your peers says. So that's my take-home message.
Yeah, for sure. I think the thing I want to leave with that I didn't touch on too much, we have a women's support group at my company, and we had a talk shortly after I joined, and we were talking about imposter syndrome and supporting yourself. And someone said the phrase that I love it, and I say it all the time now, and it's the need to sell yourself long. Having confidence in your skills and your ability to go out there and do what you do every day, work on whatever you want to do, is what's going to take you to wherever you want to end up. The education's important, the people supporting you is important, but the security in yourself, to believe in yourself, to do what you want to do, as cheesy as it is going to be what allows you to speak up, what allows you to take an opportunity, what allows you to stay even when maybe it's a little hard. So selling yourself long, talking about things you've done, like even when you're talking today to someone else, like talk about something you've done recently that you're proud of, even if it's like, I learned how to crochet, I slept 10 hours this week and it was amazing. Talk about something you're proud of that you've done, because the more you kind of normalize that of, I can talk about things that I'm proud of, that I've accomplished, while still, taking advice from others and trying to improve, is going to be what creates that solid, confident foundation that if someone ever challenges you, if someone ever makes you feel like you don't belong in a space, if you ever feel like you're not good enough to do something, you could fall back on the fact that, well, I know how to sell myself long, and I know I'm good enough to be here, and you are, and you're here today. So I'll leave you with that.
I will end with saying that you're so early in your STEM careers, pay attention to what you actually enjoy about each aspect of it. Like maybe you like the data analysis, maybe you like a very specific technique, maybe you like just talking about your science. Pay attention to that. That's something I never did when I was training as a scientist. I thought I had to like everything, and that's what made a wholesome scientist, someone who could do A, B, C, and D and enjoyed all of it. But maybe that's not the case, so pay attention to that and then seek out opportunities that let you do more of that. And if you don't know what that is, like has been reiterated so many times today, try out different things. You have nothing to lose. All you will do is gather more data about yourself, and that's very valuable.
Thank you so much, everyone. A big thank you to our panelists.
I'm gonna hit my mic.
And make sure to find them out in the atrium later if you have other questions or want to chit-chat some more. Thank you, everyone. So our final keynote speaker today is Emily Agard, who earned a BSc Honors in Life Science from Queen's University and a PhD in Immunology from the University of Toronto. She taught biology at York University and the University of Toronto at Scarborough before joining Toronto Metropolitan University, TMU, where she was an assistant professor. Currently, she's the director of Sci Exchange at TMU. She's passionate about making science accessible, engaging, and inclusive for all groups and people of all ages. Please join me in welcoming Emily.
Just have to get my mic. Little technical adjustment here. Okay.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. I was so excited when I got the email to be here, and now that I'm here, I'm enjoying myself even more than I expected. Everything all of the women have said has really resonated with me, and I'm loving hearing your questions. As an educator, I get more excited and more insight into the questions people ask than the answers they have. I find questions really exciting, and maybe that's why I ended up in science. I don't know, maybe there's a connection there. So I was asked to talk about my journey. My background is in biomedical science. I'm far removed from theoretical physics, so the fact that I'm on stage here talking at Perimeter Institute is really exciting for me. Little bit of intentionality here. I decided when making my title slide that to make future women big font and my name little font. I'm here to talk about my story and my journey because that's what I was asked to do. But I'm hoping that what I say resonates with you, because I've learned so much from having things that I've heard resonate with me. So when I'm talking about myself, it's not all about wanting to talk about myself. It's about hoping that what I've learned along the way will help you. So right now, as my introduction stated, I am the director of Sci Exchange at CMU, and you might be saying, what's Sci Exchange? Well, Sci Exchange didn't exist too long ago. We launched Sci Exchange in 2017. I went to the university in 2008. So I am now in a position that didn't even exist at the time that I started at that same institution where I am now. So the question is, how did that happen? I think a common theme here is twists and turns and nonlinear paths. Well, mine was very, very twisty and very, very turny and very, very nonlinear. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about that. I think the key word for what I'm going to be saying to you is interesting, because so many steps along the way, interesting things happen. From my interaction with different people, some of the changes I made, some of the pivots I made, I can specifically think of a single person or a single event that totally changed my path for the better. So let's get started. I'm not going to give you my life story, I promise, but I have to start with my parents, because that's what started everything for me. That was what kept me grounded. So first of all, my father and my mother. Anyone recognize these flags? Shout it out if you can recognize any of them. Barbados is one, so my dad was in Barbados. Did I hear? Grenada, yes, that's the one that people often don't get. So Barbados was known for sugar industry, and Grenada is known for spice, so I like to say that I was a little mix of sugar and spice and everything nice. So there I was. We lived with my maternal grandmother. She was of the old school of thought that baby must be as plump as possible. So there I am. I was wearing earrings. You can't see them because my cheeks were that big. But my dad was a lawyer. My mom was a teacher. So they had a humanities background. But I learned a lot of science from them. They're the ones that taught me the scientific method. They're the ones that supported me when I was doing my science fair projects. For a long time, I wanted to be a lawyer, and my dad supported that, but then he was actually happy when I decided to pursue science. So they're really what got me going. So along the way, I had different ideas. So 6-year-old Emily, I wanted to be either a teacher or a lawyer at this point, but then certain class trips kind of influenced me, so I went through the I want to be a farmer phase, or I want to be a firefighter phase, because I thought being a farmer meant you could ride horses all day. And I thought, oh, firefighter, they get to slide down that pole, because that's what firefighting is about. So I was influenced by that. Fast forward to the braces years, so grade 6 to grade 8. By this point, I was serious about becoming a lawyer. And even going into high school, I was serious about becoming a lawyer. This is when, no longer wanting to be a farmer, no longer wanting to be a firefighter, I really wanted to be a lawyer. 100%, I thought that was going to be the thing. I thought we'd be Agard and Agard one day, my dad and me. My dad died, so that was that. Moving into high school, though, I took all the sciences. I took all the maths, and I really enjoyed it. But at the time, even though I loved science, I loved math, I was good at them, I did not see myself in a career in science. So along the way, I tried out different things. I'll give you a moment to find me in the picture here. Yep, I guess you noticed. And for those of you at the back who might not have picked me out, there's a little close-up. Clearly, a career in whitewater rafting wasn't necessarily meant for me, but believe you not, I thoroughly enjoyed the trip on the Ottawa River whitewater rafting. It put me out of my comfort zone. It made me realize, okay, that might not be the career for me, but I really did enjoy it. So it's good to push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone. Okay. So now, serious talk. I decided to do my undergrad at Queen's, but this is where things really started getting interesting. Again, at this stage, still wanting to be a lawyer, and I applied to Queen's, U of T, McMaster, and McGill, and I had my heart set on McGill, like 100% heart set on McGill, and I think I probably would have enjoyed it. I loved Montreal. I loved the program that I was thinking of getting into at McGill, and 100%. Queen's was my second choice, but I was going to go to McGill. I had friends who went to McGill, loved it when I visited them, thought I was going to go to McGill. But one day, since Queen's was my second choice, and I wanted to be someone with an open mind, I decided to go to one of those sessions where someone from Queen's came to promote the program, so the liaison officer. And she talked about the university and the different programs and the different opportunities, and I really listened to her. I really, really listened to her, and I thought about it afterwards. And years of wanting to go to McGill changed to wanting to go to Queen's. It wasn't a snap decision. I did stop and think, but after listening, so that was one of the lessons I learned about how, sometimes you might think you're set in your ways, and you might be set in your ways, but really stop and think and listen to alternatives. So I decided to apply to Queen's, got in, and when I was there, I decided to take life sciences. But guess what? I was still planning to go to law school. I was taking life sciences for fun, and it still didn't click that a career in science was for me. I was taking sciences for fun and planning to go to law school. I decided to major in life science and not specialize in it, so I had room for more electives. So I took art history, I took ancient history, I took Spanish, I took German. I still can watch a series in German without relying on subtitles. I did all sorts of things. I was on the rowing team. I had to learn to row because I didn't row in high school. I was on the track team. I did track in high school. I met all sorts of people in the programs outside of science, and of course I met a lot of people in science. One of the things I really enjoyed was the fine art side of things. So I took art history, and that program involved even a trip to Baltimore, a trip to Washington. I can walk into a museum and I can tell you which Dutch Baroque artist did a particular painting. Okay, it might not be a skill that I need at a cocktail party or in the lab, but it was a way to really engage a different part of my mind, and I loved it. I really, really loved it. But then, this is where things got interesting. Remember, this is lawyer Emily taking life sciences for fun. In third year, I took a course in immunology. So immunology, when I say immunology, I'm talking about how our body fights disease based on the activity of our white blood cells and all these different things. I really, really enjoyed the course. And then at the end of that course, I still had so many questions. I'm like, I think I need to take another one of these courses. So I took advanced immunology. And my interest kept on growing. Every second paragraph seemed to say, the mechanism is still unknown, the mechanism is still unknown. I'm like, but I want to know the mechanism. Also, in between third and fourth year, I decided to apply for a summer position in a lab at a company. At the time, it was called Canot. Now it's called Sanofi. So my very first lab position was at a company, a vaccine company, where my work was actually contributing to what the company needed. So I set the bar high for me, and I really, really enjoyed it. Because I was there working in a position where I felt like what I was doing actually mattered. And I had a really supportive staff or supervisors who really taught me. Of course, I was working for a company, so I had to learn how to keep really good lab notes and document everything and sign off on every page and all of that. So the standard was quite high. Another thing that shaped my decision to move from law to immunology was when our dean decided to have a special session for the young women in life science where the program coordinator from U of T at immunology came to talk to us. And she started talking to us about the immunology program. So here I was, someone who was already madly in love with immunology, was hearing about the program at U of T, which I think still has the biggest immunology program in the country, talking about it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to apply to immunology. And that's what I did. So another interesting story. I, for reading week, came back to Toronto, and I thought this was old school when to apply you actually had to have paper applications that actually were mailed or delivered. I figured I'm in Toronto, I'll actually bring this package to the department. When I was there, that same professor, Dr. Jill Wu, who had come to visit us at Queen's, happened to be on campus, and the admin assistant called her up and said, Jill, there's a student from Queen's here. Do you have a moment? I had meant to just go and hand in my application, in and out, go back home. Next thing you know, I'm being whisked over to Dr. Wu's office. She's chatting with me. First thing, she brings me in. She's like, what do your parents do? But they have a lot of books. And she just dove into immunology, and we were talking about, then she's calling other people. She called about 5 other different members of the department. Student here from Queen's, do you have time? About 3 or 4 hours later, I left the campus. I had trial by fire, just these little micro interviews. They just kept on asking me, they told me what they were working on, and they kept on asking me, what would you do here? On the spot, didn't have time to prep or anything like that, which also meant I didn't have time to get really nervous. On the spot, that was my interview. A week later, I got my welcome to the department letter. Again, my grades at Queen's were okay, but not the welcome to the department within a week after applying type of grades. So that little bit of me going in to hand in and being open to the idea of just talking to these people without preparing, they were able to see that I was generally interested in immunology. I wasn't just using grad school as a stepping stone. I was passionate about it. They liked the way I thought. I didn't give canned answers to anything. If I didn't understand something, I asked them about what they were doing. They knew that I didn't prepare. So they were getting insight into my authentic, real interest in immunology. So I decided to go to U of T and I decided to go directly into the PhD program, not start with my master's. And things went quite well in the beginning. I was on track to finish quite quickly. But then along the way, there were ups and downs, so it took a little longer to finish the PhD than originally thought, and that's something that a lot of people who do PhDs can say. But it was worth it in the end. While I was there, I also started teaching. So I had been very passionate about the lab work. So I left law, decided to go into immunology. I was passionate about the lab work, but then I also started loving teaching. So I'm like, okay, let me pursue this a little bit. I did a certificate in teaching in the biomedical sciences while I was there, and I really developed my teaching skills. So then I went to York University, and I also taught at U of T Scarborough campus for a bit, because I started off teaching in contract positions, so they're not full-time, they're not very, they're not long-term, they're not permanent positions, so it's a little precarious. But I was honing my skills. I knew that I didn't want to be in something that precarious for the rest of my life, but I was honing my skills and I was loving it. I was loving interacting with the students, and to this day, my favorite part of what I do is interacting with students. So I taught at York University. While I was there, I also did community outreach. So I went into high schools in the neighborhood, and I talked about what I was doing. I talked about my career path, as it was at the time. And then I also had some of my university students go to the schools and talk to the kids there. So it was different layers of mentoring. And it was a learning experience for the students, too, to interact with the youth in the high school. That community outreach I was doing at York was not part of my job description at all. I did not get compensation for it. I was just doing it out of the passion for that outreach. So you're seeing how things are shifting a little bit. So law, went to lab research, went to teaching with a touch of community outreach. Common thread, though, is that I've always loved immunology. To this day, I teach it, and immunology has been quite great for me. Part of the perks of being in science is all the conference spots. These are some of my favorite. Yes, there were some in North America too, but might as well highlight Stockholm, Kobe, Rio, Melbourne, and Milan. I mean. And of course, while I'm there, I enjoy the countries as well. So conferences were great. You get to go, you get to really engage. I find that at a conference, I would recharge. I get to talk to people about what I'm doing, get to ask them about what they're doing, get insights into the questions they have about what I'm doing. So even after I stopped doing lab research, I still kept going to conferences because I teach immunology and I want to keep things current. Also, and this has come up too, I took time for play. As you can tell from my whole took science for fun, I always had other interests. I love sports, I love the arts, I love so many different things, and I like trying new things. Not just because they bring me joy, and I think it's very important to find those things that bring you joy, because life can be hard and you need that joy. But it's also very humbling to be starting new. I think it's very good to be a learner. So these are some of the girls I dance with. I was taking belly dancing and then doing different types of fusion dancing. I joined a steel band, and one of the fun facts there is that one of my students at York was saying, oh, she's a musician. I'm like, oh, what do you play? She's like, oh, I play pan. I'm like, really, you play pan? Steel drum. And I'm like, what band do you play with? And she's like, oh, I play with this band called Afropan. I'm like, oh, I've heard of them. I've always wanted to join, but I've never known how. That student coming to visit me in office hours led me to join a steel band that I played with for 10 years. Okay? Conversation. She came to me with genetics questions, and I ended up in a steel band for 10 years. I'm telling you, interesting. Life can be interesting. So there I am there. I also learned to play the doumbek. I'd say that these two are the coolest instruments, but I'm biased. But being a learner was also very humbling because, you know, what it's like when you're starting something off. For the dancing, they take videos of our little recitals. You know when you watch little kids, they're cute, but they're not that great. Well, that was me. So looking back at how I looked when I was starting to dance and when I was starting to drum, it was, again, humbling. And of course, this is one of my bucket list things was getting to the Great Barrier Reef in Australia. So I did that. So there I was snorkeling. So time for play. Very, very important. So how did I get to Toronto Metropolitan University? At the time, it was called Ryerson. And as I mentioned before, when I was at York, my position was a little precarious. I was gaining skills, but I was kind of reaching the point where it was time to move on. And I happened to stumble upon, I don't even know what made me look at the website, because to be honest, Ryerson wasn't really on my radar before. It wasn't, now it has a really big science program, but before it wasn't really known for science. It was known for journalism, radio and television arts, and that type of thing. I happened to stumble upon a job ad for someone to teach physiology, and the application was coming up soon. Like, it was an inspired moment. So they wanted someone to teach physiology. I had never taught physiology, so I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't apply. And again, it's the whole thing about, women often don't apply for the things that they could be probably 80% qualified for, but, other populations sometimes apply for the things that maybe they're less, but I don't want to get sexist here. So I'm like, let me throw my hat in the ring. I'm like, I've never taught physiology, but I've taken physiology. I know the immune system, and that's kind of a complicated system. And I applied, and what was interesting is, in the interview, my community outreach came up. And they were very interested in what I had done at York in the community. And after I got the position, I found out that that actually was the game changer for them. Because at that point, when you're being interviewed, everybody checks all of the qualification boxes. They have the education, they have the work experience. There were questions about how do you stand out. These extra little things, and especially if they're authentic interests of yours. You're not just doing them to pad your resume or anything. They found out that I was doing this community outreach, when I didn't have to, when I wasn't being compensated for it, just simply because I wanted to. And TMU has a vibe of being that sort of the city university, the connected to the community type of university, and that really resonated with them, and that's how I got that position. This was before we actually had a faculty of science. We were tucked in with engineering and architecture. Now we have our own faculty. So we were doing various different science outreach, and again, this wasn't part of my official job description. I was there to teach physiology, and then eventually I got to teach immunology there. Before we even had our faculty of science, we were doing science outreach, so we had students coming onto campus. Sometimes we'd go out to campus. We'd do various different things. We held events for humans as well. This one was called Coding and Cocktails, so it was an hour of code and then a little reception afterwards. We had summer camps, so we were doing a lot. We had this event called Science Rendezvous. Lots of outreach. But again, it was on the side. Then, another thing, while I was there, for the fun of it, I decided to pursue a certificate in photography studies because, why not? There's a lot of science in photography. And I had a lot of fun with that. Again, I like to engage a different part of my brain. I was learning all sorts of new stuff. And a few interesting things here. These are from some of my assignments, and I shot one of my friends here, and her picture became on the cover of a magazine. This spot, it was a feature highlighting, top Canadian, influential Canadian women. Whoops, what just happened there? Okay. Influential Canadian women, including Margaret Atwood, and her picture was the one that was on the cover. So her picture got chosen over Margaret Atwood. Because the photographer was so good. The fun fact with this one is that this assignment, I'm not going to get carried away with this, but this assignment, I had my friend come in to the studio. It was supposed to be this way of photographing. It's called high-key photography. And she spent about 30 minutes. I was taking all these shots and all of that. As she was leaving, she was putting on her coat, and she just did this. As she was putting on her coat, I'm like, wait a minute, hold that. And I took the shot, and that was the shot. I had spent 30 minutes of her sitting on a stool, like posing different ways and all of that. When she went to put on her coat, I'm like, wait a minute, that's the spot, that's the shot. So it's another example of how these opportunities, I know this is just a simple little photography assignment, but it's another example of how life has these little opportunities and different things can happen when you're not expecting, or when you're not trying too hard. I think before I was trying too hard, and then just when something natural just happened, I seized it. And then this photo here, I happened to take it just from my cell phone and submitted it for a photography exhibition, and it got chosen. Again, wasn't trying too hard, it was just one of the 10,000 shots on my camera reel when I went to Australia, and it got chosen. I had tried to get into the exhibition in the past where I was using my fancy camera and editing and all that. None of those got chosen, but a little cell phone photo got chosen. So again, you never know. Sometimes it's best not to think too much about something. Just do something naturally. All right. So all of that brings me right back to where I started, where I am now, Sci Exchange at TMU. By this point, we had our Faculty of Science, and we decided to make outreach something more official with an actual budget. And shout out to our founding dean, Dr. Imogen Coe, who supported this endeavor to really have outreach as something central as a department in the university, in the Faculty of Science. I actually had to apply to be the director. It didn't just come naturally. Even though I had been doing a lot of the outreach, there had to be an application process. I couldn't just be handed the job. There was a possibility that there was someone out there who had more experience, so I applied, I got the position. So the next thing, and this was 2015, so it wasn't Sci Exchange launched yet. So we wanted to make outreach official and have a center, but we needed to figure out what we were doing. So we needed to do market research, find out what other people were doing, not just in Toronto, but in Canada, in North America, in the world. We did surveys across the country. We had to come up with a name. We even did market research to test the name. And eventually, Sci Exchange was born in 2017. So this position that I'm in now emerged out of the passion I had for outreach, the steps I took, and also the faith that that dean, Dr. Imogen Coe, had in me to back me. And now I build a team, I hire, and one of the things I'm proud of is that we have an environment where people feel welcome. The students who work with us, these are my students and staff in paid positions, but we also have a lot of volunteers. And Sci Exchange has been known to be that place where people feel safe, where people feel a sense of belonging, and that's one of the things I'm the most proud of. So I just have a little bit more just to talk about just some of the things we do, so it's no longer my story, it's the things I'm proud of. Science Rendezvous is an event where we open up science to the public. So we hold this every year. It's part of a big national organization. We're not the only ones who do it. But we have people, our scientists, talking about their research in a way that the general public can understand, and it's open to the public, it's free. We're all about community. Another big part of what we do is Indigenous knowledge in science. So we have a coordinator of Indigenous knowledge and science outreach. Amber Sandy was the inaugural one, and now we have Caleb Bordeaux. And they do a lot of, they did different outreach. Kayla now is working with a lot of Indigenous youth and also Indigenous students on campus. And it's about exchange. It's about learning from each other. So we learn about Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous teachings, and there's a lot of intercultural exchange. And we call it Studis Science. Studis is slang for let's do this. If you say let's do this quickly enough, it's Studis. So that's an Indigenous slang. Technovation Girls Toronto, there's a chapter here in Waterloo. Some of you might be familiar with it. It's a program, I'm the chapter ambassador for Toronto. It's a program where girls aged 8 to 18 in teams think of a problem that tech can solve, and they come up with an app and various different marketing. The seniors have to come up with a business sort of plan and all of that. So that has been a lot of fun, working with these girls, 8-year-olds making apps that blow me away. Like, I'm not even joking. They're so cute and they're so smart. It's really great. We recently had a science communication conference, and actually, one of our keynote speakers was your very own Dr. Donna Strickland, Nobel laureate. And what our conference was about was reframing, rebuilding, and reigniting how we talk about science. And one of the things that came up was, education, changing how it's done. the feedback we got from this conference was how different it was. We had graduate students, when they were talking about their research, we had them do it in a way that was creative. And there's some graduate students who are like, oh, I've presented posters before and I hated it, but I loved doing it here because it was different. It was a way where it was all about making sure that the general public can understand. One of our sessions was math in drag, and so there were two drag queens talking about how they teach math. One of the participants said, okay, that was actually great for my soul. And the last thing that I want to give a shout out to my team for doing is Soapbox Science, which is something that originated in the UK, and it's all about being in a public place and standing on a soapbox and talking about your research without PowerPoint, without anything, and it's about connecting with the community. And without further ado, I'm going to just play this to give you an idea of how the event goes, because just talking about it doesn't do it justice.
I'm here today with Soapbox Science at Word on the Street.
We are literally standing on a soapbox to talk to everybody about our research in a way that is accessible.
A lot of people see science as something that's going to be using big words and difficult to understand. When we have events like this, we can teach the public that science is accessible and that through just a short 5-minute talk, you can learn so much.
I research this class of chemicals called organophosphate esters. Everyone was just so engaged and so interested, and I really love hearing their thoughts about environmental chemistry.
It was really exciting to see how curious people were and how many questions they had, especially as somebody in math. I don't think people really know what mathematicians do on a day-to-day basis, so it was really good to share just a little bit about what my research looks like.
I think education and science are human rights. So that's why it should be accessible for everyone, regardless of their gender, nationality, race.
I'm a huge advocate for equity in general, and I think that knowledge is that equity. Knowledge is our power, and when we give that information to more people, we get to have a more informed population, we get to make new choices, we get to actually know new information about ourselves, the world, how we work in it.
Science is the basis of our modern society. We need science in our day-to-day life, and we need more young minds coming in research, and we need more people to be more interested in science.
My experience here at Soapbox Science has been phenomenal. I'm always excited to talk about my research, but to actually get the opportunity to connect with the public validates my experience in knowing that the research I do and the work I put into it is actually going to be giving back to the community.
So this is my very first year doing Soapbox Science, and it has been so incredible. I'm so honored to be a speaker here today. I am blown away by the response, by the engagement from the audience, the enthusiasm that I'm feeling from everyone who's coming here.
It's been so amazing just seeing all these passionate people talk about what they're interested in. It's making this thing rise in me and want to do the same thing.
It's exciting because I get to engage with the public, learn from other scientists, and feel empowered to do the work that I do.
Did anyone notice what the scientists had in common? They're all women. So it's not about, oh, come and hear a woman talk. It's about normalizing women being out there talking about their science. We don't market it as, oh, listen to a female scientist. It's about listening to a scientist. If you happen to notice that they're all women, good. Okay, so that's Sci Exchange, and just leaving you with tips, and I don't need to get too much into this because I'm preaching to the choir here. A lot of these things have come up already, but really identify your passions and strengths. That's what I did. When I look at what Sci Exchange has accomplished, it really started from that seed that I had planted with my passion for outreach. Never stop learning, be dedicated, diligent, and disciplined. This doesn't mean striving for perfection, and in fact, I don't like the idea of striving for perfection. It's not the healthiest mindset, in my humble opinion. Surround yourself with positive people, form support networks. Even here, I don't know if you caught this, but we're wearing these bracelets. We got this from Vanessa. We just bonded here. Well, I knew Vanessa from before, but yeah. Find these networks, seek good mentors and champions, listen and think. okay? So much of what I've learned is from listening to people. You don't necessarily have to agree, but listen. It doesn't hurt to listen. And then think things through. And lastly, life is constantly providing lessons and opportunities. So the failures can lead to new directions, to opportunities. Some things do get better with age, like your confidence in yourself. You get used to making mistakes and making those corrections and learning that, everything can be okay. Be true to yourself. I've had students who've changed programs and they've become so much better because they're being true to yourself. Be sure to seek help and rest when needed. And then lastly, I think I'm running out of time, but honesty, integrity, empathy, and kindness, those are the components of my moral compass. Nowadays, some of those are bad words in certain circles, but I find life is hard and sometimes you mess up, or things don't go well as planned, but I think if this is your compass, you're gonna be all right, okay? Some people might argue that, it makes you vulnerable, it makes you weak, but none of these words are synonymous with stupidity. You can be smart, you can be strong, and still be guided by these principles of honesty, integrity, empathy, and kindness. So with that, I'll leave you with ways to contact me if you wish, or if you want to find out more about Sci Exchange. And I have my dogs everywhere, not just because they're so darn cute, but because I learned so much from not just people, but raising these two beautiful creatures, Riley and Lucy. You can tell that I learned different things from them just by looking at this. So thank you very much for your attention. And again, it's been so great talking to all of you, hearing your questions, and I hope that some of what I have to say resonates.
Thank you so much, Emily. That was so inspiring. We're running a little bit over time, so unfortunately, let me just say, you're going to be out there in the mentoring session, so questions, come and find Emily, but we're just going to not sort of do the lineup thing right now just because of that timing, but make sure to find her. She's such an inspiration. So thank you so much. Feel free today to share on social any sorts of moments that are great. These are some things you can take note of. As we close, I would like to once again thank Linda Hasenfratz for her welcome message and for Linamar Corporation's ongoing support of women in science as presenting sponsor of this event. For our online audience, thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed the session. And please join me now for thanking all the speakers and the panelists for sharing their experiences with you today.